Joining us now is Mike Allard, and Mike is a mental health therapist. He's from the Gainesville, Virginia area. He's in Manassas, and he's got a big announcement to make. Michael Allard, great to have you with us, man.
Thank you so much, John. It's good to be here with the Godzilla of truth. I will make one correction now. I'm actually a teacher. I wish I was a mental health therapist. I'd make a lot more money, but.
Oh, okay. Well, and you're teaching where, Mike?
I actually teach in Loudoun County, but I live right here in the 50th district in Manassas.
Tell me about your history. I talked to your father yesterday. By the
Sure.
way, your father, very proud father, told me that you are a teacher and you have a passion for public service and serving the public. Michael, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, I come from a family of educators. So my dad, who you met, was actually a cop, turned teacher, turned principal. And my mom works with special needs kids. So I was brought up to serve. I'm a teacher right now. Before I taught up here in Northern Virginia, I saw the challenges of parents paying for childcare in Orange County. Even in Orange County, childcare is not cheap. Then I taught in Petersburg, where I saw incredible inequities in the classroom, all under Democratic leadership, by the way. Petersburg was completely forgotten about. And then I moved up to Loudoun County, got a wonderful job opportunity. And even in Loudoun County, the richest county in America, there's still the same inequities in the classroom. And look, I got to tell you, John, COVID's made it even worse. Those equity gaps are growing even wider. And children of color and those who live in rural communities are affected the most by this. And the Democrats don't seem to care.
So, what has inspired you, Mike, to run for the House of Delegates?
Well, I see the injustice in my classroom. I see that kids don't have access to internet. I see that kids, we all don't have an equal education. That's very true in Virginia. And there's too many issues on the table right now. In Virginia, more people are moving out than moving in. We're falling in job creation. It's becoming more and more expensive. And John, you're originally from New Jersey, I believe. I'm originally from New York. We've seen this song and dance before. We know how this is going to go. More people are going to leave the Commonwealth. And to top it all off, John, I'm represented in the 50th by Lee Carter, who's a hot mess. So,
well, hashtag Commie Lee of the CCP. So you're a teacher in Northern Virginia. You're announcing your candidacy for the House of Delegates. That's the 50th district. That's in Manassas, running against Lee Carter. Tell us how you're going to win this race, Mike.
Well, John, I'm going to appeal to new, diverse voters. I think in Northern Virginia especially, there's so much diversity. There's a lot of immigrant populations up here. And I believe the GOP has to do more and reach out to these communities, especially here in Northern Virginia. You cannot win Virginia back unless you make a dent in Northern Virginia. And look, I believe this is going to be a campaign of ideas. The fact that Lee Carter's a socialist, he calls himself a socialist. It's actually funny because he says himself he didn't know what a socialist was until 2017. He had to Google it. So I don't even consider him a socialist. But I'm going to reach out to everybody, Republicans, Democrats, Black, white, Hispanic. It does not matter. I want this to be a campaign for all the Virginians and all Virginians that have been left behind, especially by the corporate culture we have here now in Virginia. If you're not in the tech industry in Northern Virginia, it's very hard to get a job. So I believe a large amount of people can appeal. I can appeal to, and they could be brought on board to my message.
Mike, tell us about your teaching career.
Sure. I started out, I fought tooth and nail. My dad's like, you got to go into education. It's so important for a male to go into elementary education. And I kicked and screamed. I was in the banking industry. And then finally, I did want to make a difference. I wound up getting a pre-K job in Orange, and I loved it. I didn't make much money, but I absolutely got to impact the community in a huge way. I taught in Petersburg. I wanted to teach in an underserved community and help them.
Wow.
Where I fought actually for better conditions for the playground for my students, and I worked with Kenneth Pritchett on the school board. He's a fantastic guy. And we brought change. We brought small change to Petersburg. I worked with a large group of teachers who are committed every single day. It is not the safest environment in Petersburg, but we love those kids. And then I moved up to Northern Virginia. I'm now married, so I thought, there would be more opportunity up here. I teach in Loudoun County. I love my job. I love my kids. And it's not a far commute from Manassas, so it worked out perfectly.
So what grade do you teach?
I teach fourth. Well, I used to teach fourth. I teach fifth now.
And how are you dealing with the not being in classes? How's that working for you?
Well, John, I got to tell you, it's been very, very hard. I'm making the most of it. Kids do attend online. However, there are interruptions. A lot of kids do not have access to great internet, so they're in and out. In the middle of testing, they're in and out. They're having trouble connecting. In some households, you can't be on multiple devices. So while Loudoun County, I know, is trying to take the utmost precautions to stay safe, it really is affecting our kids because not all kids can learn online, especially those EL students, those SPED students, the children that are most at risk. It really puts them in a bad position. So I'm doing what I can.
Are you advocating that kids go back to the classroom, Mike?
Yes. I believe strongly. I think the hybrid model is the best way to go, especially in Northern Virginia. It's such a transient area. A lot of my parents work at the airport, so the safest measure, the hybrid model that was rolled out, would contain like 1 day of online learning and the rest coming into school safely. I think that's the best way to go about this because we need to get back in the classroom. We need to solve the inequities and the growth that's being lost by this decision.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We are with Mike Allers. Mike is a candidate. He's a school teacher. He's a candidate for the Republican nomination for the House of Delegates, and he's hoping to go up against Lee Carter, Commie Lee of the CCCP. He's a communist. He says he's a socialist. He doesn't know what it means, so must mean he's a communist. Commie Lee of the CCCP is my nickname for him. Look, Mike, you're running for House of Delegates. What are some of the changes you want to see in Virginia? Understanding that if you beat Carter, but the Republicans don't gain a majority, you can't really get anything done. I mean, if you look at right now the way the Speaker has run the House, caucus of the corn. I mean, no Republicans are getting a say. There's no amendments. There isn't even any debate. I mean, they just basically do what they want. So should you go there and there's not a majority, you can't do anything anyway. So
I actually don't think that's true. I believe I can get a lot of Democrats on board with my agenda. There are Democrats that claim they want more equitable practices in the classroom. But that's got to start with, John, if we're going to have good conditions in the classroom, we have to have higher teacher pay. And Democrats have to put their money where their mouth is. So the first things first, I want to advocate for teachers. We don't have competitive pay in Virginia. Mm-hmm. We're behind Delaware. We're behind Maryland. And with people moving out, there's no incentive to become a teacher in Virginia. Mm-hmm. I want to change that first and foremost. It all starts with education. We get the best in the classrooms. They deserve the best, just like our law enforcement. They deserve more pay. Mm-hmm. If you pay the best, you get the best. I mean, just look at our doctors. And we have to make sure that teachers get that because a child's life can be completely changed by education. New job opportunities, they have new access to health care, all if they have a good education and start out strong. Another thing, I think Virginia should take a page out of George's book and embrace universal pre-K, but not by raising tax dollars. The Virginia lottery should pay for it. And that's what's happening in Georgia. Nathan Deal is a great Republican, and he pushed that forward. So with rising costs in Virginia, they said now, in Northern Virginia, it costs just as much to send your child, if not more, to daycare as it would to send your kid to George Mason
crazy.
For the first year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's insane. Insane. No one can afford that. So
I mean, Ivanka Trump has been fighting for that since she's been there because it just puts a tremendous strain on families and they just can't make it happen. Mike, when I talk to your father has been a school administrator. That's been his career. What impact did your father have on you in changing careers and getting out of banking, which can be very lucrative in finance, and going into school teaching, which is not particularly high pay?
No, my dad told me it's all about service. We all have to step up and fight for our communities. And you cannot make more of an impact than as a teacher. You're indirectly with the parents. You're communicating with the parents. You are changing the future every day in your classroom. Every day you're encouraging kids that may not have hope at home. You're inspiring them. So that's priceless, John. So look, regardless of pay, teachers that go in it, I mean, whether you're in Northern Virginia making, decent money or you're in Southwest Virginia making no money in the classroom, it does not matter. You're in it to inspire and really change and provide a better life for kids. And that's priceless.
Mike, what are the three things that Lee Carter has done that tick you off the most? Three things.
His Twitter account, number one. Number two, he doesn't put his money where his mouth is. He talks a good game, but he hasn't really gotten anything done. And the third is, I got to say, John, when he proposed cutting law enforcement by 25% because he got some pepper spray in his eye, that really ticked me off. That's not going to solve the racial discrepancies we have in our society. That's not going to protect the communities that most need protecting. So that really ticked me off.
So in 2019, Lee Carter ran for re-election against a pretty good candidate, Ian, think of his last name.
Ian Lovejoy.
Ian Lovejoy, a city council member from Manassas. I thought Lovejoy was a pretty good candidate, worked pretty hard, made Lee Carter the issue, and I really thought Lovejoy was going to win that race. Well, he got crushed. So what is the pathway to victory there?
Look, Ian's actually a good friend of mine.
He's a good guy.
I think the pathway to victory is, once again, Lee back then, in all fairness, he was crazy, but he wasn't this crazy. He's really stretched the rubber band thin, and I think voters are tired of it. So I believe in reaching out to new voters, really making the Republican Party the idea of the party of ideas and leading the charge on education. I think that's going to win the suburbs. So that's what I plan to do. But I actually want to thank you for having me on. I got to jump on to host these kids on my online classroom. But John, thank you so much for hosting me. And I'm going to be calling back pretty frequently.
Mike, if people want more information on your campaign, Mike, where do they go?
Go to votemikejr.com, votemikejr.com.
All right, votemikejr.com. Mike Allers announcing his campaign for House of Delegates, District number 50, to get the Republican nomination to go up against Lee Carter. And how that nomination is decided, no one knows. But hopefully it'll be a primary, or perhaps he'll have no opposition. Either way, that's Lee Carter's seat, and he'll be running for a third term. Hey, Mike, thanks for being with us.